Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the 24th episode of the REHI podcast. And today we have a guest for you, Hendrik Tali, who is Chief of Communications of the Estonian Rescue Association. Welcome to the podcast.
Nice to be here, thank you.
And I understand you just came back from Ukraine about a week ago, right?
Yeah, we just delivered some aid to Ukrainian rescuers who are our colleagues working in Ukraine in tough situations. And this time we took it to the demining unit who needed a machine to work. And the machine actually has a special capability for bomb dogs. So the bomb sniffing dogs can be put in the cages and they can transport the dogs so they can do their job more easily, and also some medical equipment with bone injection guns, which are also really important for them at the moment, since people are getting hurt by blasts or fires, and if you can't inject any, for example, painkillers inside the veins, you can't find the veins, then you just put it into the bones. So that's what they do there.
In the bones?
Yeah.
How does that look? Literally into your leg?
Exactly.
Bone?
Yeah, there's this special gun for it, so you can just inject it directly into the bone.
You can't miss, right? If you miss.
You can miss that. Yeah, you just inside the bone, and then it's even, I think, more efficient as well. But it's painful.
Bone insection guns. That's what you said.
Yeah.
But also, Pia told me you're the leader of the association that you gave a robot. Yes, demining robot. Yeah.
Demining robot. Exactly. Yeah. After we delivered the aid this time, we went to a field near Kiev. Where the demining unit was actually operating, and we had the chance to see our robot that we delivered there in August. And it has been working around Kiev for this time, and it's actually a really, really important robot, which has been donated by the Estonian three businessmen, Priit, Valdur, and Kristjan. And the robot gives actually the opportunity for the deminers to be safe when doing their job. And the function is that the robot is huge. It's bulletproof and blast-proof, and it just rides through the field, and any mine or grenades or rockets, whatever is flown on the field or in the forest or even city areas, it destroys the bombs, but the machine still operates on, so you can actually use it multiple times.
Wait, so it doesn't demine them; it just blows them up.
Exactly, because eventually you have to blow them up anyways.
What if it's an anti-tank mine, like the big one?
It still blows up.
And the robot is not harmed?
Depends on the robot, because there are different robots. We brought a little bit smaller one. There are bigger ones as well. Our robot is MV4. And there's also a robot called MV10 that a lot of other nations have given as well. At the moment, Estonia is in the top 3 in Ukraine delivering demining equipment. I might be mistaken, but I think Canada was one of the biggest as well. And then the Warren Buffett Foundation, who has given 10 robots this time.
Wow. So I imagine, I don't know, haven't seen the photo of it yet. Very soon we should have a screen to put the photo on, but imagine a robot which has like a thing attached to the front, so explosion wouldn't actually happen under the robot, right?
Yeah, it looks like a small miniature version of a tractor, and it has roamers on it as well, so it can go on a field. And then on the front of it, it has like a plowing equipment, but there are some steel things that go around, like it just sweeps, like a sweeper, but it's made of steel. So when the blast happens, it just like pumps it on the floor so that the explosion would happen. So its goal is for the detonation to commence.
So it beats it into like detonating, and then the detonation happens away from the robot, right?
It's like a centimeter or 2 away.
That's enough to save it.
Yeah, absolutely, because it explodes, but the robot has been made perfectly for that. And the robot is from a docking company which we also visited before giving out the robots, so we could actually see what they're actually doing. We got a lot of recommendations from the Estonian Rescue Board's demining units, who were also knowledgeable about these robots, and they recommended docking eventually. And when we visited docking, we got the information how they make their machines. So, for example, if other competitors only make it like 2-week learning session for the teams, docking made it for 4 weeks or 4 weeks. So Ukrainian people, the rescuers, go to Croatia and they learn the machine through every bit. So they open the machine up and they put it back together.
Oh, really?
So that if it went broken, or like every machine breaks at some time. So what they learn is how to actually learn the spirits and the inside of the machine, so that if anything happens, they would know what to do.
So they actually disassemble the hardware, like they have to. But
Exactly.
these machines, they're insanely expensive, right? So I show these robots on my channel. Oh, look at the demining robot. I don't really mention it, but this cost over 1 million, right?
Yeah, 1,100,000 with all the with the experience of the crew and everything. So they can go there and study as well.
Could you drive it?
I could not drive it, but it's a remote operated, and it's easy to use. Actually, it seems like it's easier to use because it's like a I don't know if
Two sticks and
yeah, it's just like a joystick. Like if you're playing PlayStation or something, it looks like it, but there's a huge screen with the statistics on it and everything else. But it seems like it's easy to drive if you just pull the sticks. But eventually you have to know what you're doing anyways. Even if it's easy to drive, you have to know what you're doing, because if you blow up a wrong thing, might not be so safe.
So, but what is usually your mission, Estonian Rescue Association? What's their mission in Ukraine? You gave the robot, right? But in Estonia, for example, you also have volunteer firefighters. You have, I think, water-related rescue teams or something like that.
Yeah, Estonian Rescue Association is actually more focused, or has always been focused on our volunteer rescuers. So we have over 120 different unions, rescue unions around Estonia, who work voluntarily in the field of rescue. There's the fire rescue, the classical rescue, as you mentioned. Then there's the water rescue, which is maritime rescuers, who are actually the most important thing that's keeping people safe on the sea, because Estonian government hasn't been fully doesn't have the resources to fully cover the entire Estonian coast. So actually the volunteers do all of the job for them. And
I love the fact how you're trying to like sugarcoat the fact that we're not the richest country. Like we don't have the resources for it.
yeah, and that's actually great, because one time I talked to one of the rescuers, and he said a great thing, that if every little community took care of themselves, and not only looked up to the country, so that the country would do it, we would be a lot safer and a lot richer country if we all just did stuff ourselves. Because we're not a big country, and yet we're one of the biggest helpers of Ukraine, even though we're so small.
I mean, you just touched upon civil society, basically, which would be the foundation of any democratic nation, of people accepting responsibility of themselves and their surroundings, right? You live next to the sea, then you have a volunteer force who goes out to the sea.
Exactly, yeah.
And every village could have a rescue firefighters and stuff like that.
Exactly, that would be great, because in that case we would have a stronger country. And if everyone did some voluntary work, it's just my thought. If everyone did something, then we would have a lot more money, for example, for education and for other civil things that we actually need as well. So as a small country, it's one of the most important things, and that's what we're actually supporting and doing. And Ukraine kind of just, it happened because they're all colleagues, and then Ukraine just came in, and Pia, as a head of the rescue association, started gathering equipment, and today we have given over 6.6 million euros of equipment there. And we never donate any money or anything like that. We always buy the equipment from Estonia or in Europe, so that we can bring the equipment to them. Because it's harder for them if you donate, for example, money, then it's hard for them to get it as well, because it might take 3 months or something. But if you're in Europe, you get it real fast, and you can actually deliver the equipment, and they can right away use it.
And it is like, I don't want to talk about it, but we have to. We cannot, like, there is corruption in Ukraine. There is corruption. Of course, Zelensky is trying to root it out and in the army. But if you do give a fire truck or a robot, for example, to some smaller settlements mayor to give it to the rescue association of local rescue association, it might disappear. You cannot do anything. So you gotta know the guys you give the stuff to, right?
Exactly. That's actually the sad part. But as long as we've done it, we've only given it to the state emergency service of Ukraine. And we know the people, we have talked to them, and every day the contact person has mostly remained the same for us as well. So who we talk to, and the head of the state emergency services of Ukraine has also met with us multiple times, and we know who the people are who we're giving it to.
Yeah, that is extremely important. We do the same thing with trucks and drones, because there are thousands of units with thousands of commanders of these units, and they all need something, and you then have to pick out these 30, not based on always what they need, but based on if you know that they're through and through clean.
Yeah.
Because if they sell the equipment, and or if you even cannot verify, let's say they are clean but you cannot check it, you still cannot give it to them. So they will need to sign all of the paperwork needed by the EU. They will, in 1 month, they will need to make a video of the truck we give them, for example, or make a video with the soldiers reporting to the volunteers that we did this and that with the drones. Most like aid organizations don't demand that, and bigger ones, they just throw millions. It's like, take these 10,000 drones or these 100 trucks, and they don't check. But like, I cannot allow it to myself, for example, because my face is on the line, my trustworthiness, and my viewers donate because I say, and if the unit sells something and I gather the money, it's my fault also. So this is why we, for example, we ask 1 or 2 months later, can you make a video of the truck? Half of the times the truck is destroyed, and he makes a video of the destroyed truck, but at least we know where it is and what happened to it, you know?
Yeah. But it's one of the hardest part when you're donating to, for example, us to the state emergency services. It's hard to eventually get the video or the picture of our truck working, because it's such a huge organization. And what Pia said as well, we don't want to give them extra pressure or extra challenges. It's like, we brought you the truck, we trust you, we've seen all the people, we haven't seen any corruption scandals in the state emergency services. We know that they're good people trying to help, and now we've also the demining robot, for example. Now we got to see it, because that's a big thing. I mean, if you donate some other vehicles or stuff, that's okay, but
we lost the $1 million robot. I don't see it.
But now we saw it, and we get regular updates as well. We get regular updates on how big of the area has the robot scanned this month, and how many explosives has it disarmed. And for example, now it has been in the Kiev region. Because of the snow, it wasn't able to operate for some time, because the snow in Kiev is like snow in Estonia as well. It's huge piles, and the robot can operate there. But now spring is here, summer is here, and autumn as well. So the robot's gonna do a lot job, and it's gonna make the miner's life a lot easier as well. And now we've heard that it's going to the Donetsk region, which is also mined, but around the Kiev region. When the Russians tried to occupy Kiev, it was encircled. I think 75% was encircled already, but then the Kiev forces pushed it back. But as the Russians went back, they mined the whole area. So actually, people who are living around there might not want to go to random fields.
In some areas in Donbass or in southern Ukraine, there is not even point in demining them yet, because the front line is 10 kilometers. But in Kiev, around Kiev, there are these mines, but Russians are not coming back there. There's at least I see no capability around it. At least you look at the satellite photos, they would need over 100,000 troops massed on the border of Belarus or Russia to try to do. There's nothing there, so it's good time to demine it because now people need to live there and.
Yeah, and well, Ukraine's one of the most important resources is its grain. And since Russians have mined all of the grain fields, the local farmers can't go back to working there as well. So you actually need to demine vast amounts of fields. So if Estonians think that we have a big field, it's nothing compared to the Ukrainian ones. We've seen the fields with our own eyes as well. It's massive.
Oh yeah, I mean the massive the size of that country. It's quite hard to describe because in the maps it doesn't look that big. The maps are distorted, you know how the globe thing works, right? And if you really drive through Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, then you have driven half of the way to Kiev because the other half is in Ukraine, which is as long as it's truly the biggest country in Europe, actually. So vast. And there's not like Estonia, forest, little bit houses. It's like you cannot even see in the distance. The field is so large that you don't see forest or nothing. It just fields over such a long area, like the steppe. How do you call it in English?
Steps, I think.
Steps, yeah. So vast. I really like it though. I like the landscape a lot, but I can see it how it's so difficult to demine. I mean, with manpower, how many man hours does it take to just go with the metal detector and walk this?
Well, depending on a field, it's huge amounts of hours. But if we take Globsec statistics, then it says that at the moment Ukraine is the most mined countries in all of the world. If we take, for example, Syria, Iraq, and Iran, where war has been for tens of years already, then we take Ukraine with 2 years, it's just rose to the top. And at the moment, it's speculated that about 156,000 square kilometers is mined by the Russians, like the war-affected areas. So it's about 5 Estonians, was the 4 or 5 Estonians.
I just want to say Estonia is 45,000 square kilometers.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even imagine the entire Estonian area being mined.
Exactly.
5 times that.
And people have to scrape through the country. And Globsec says that it might take up to 700 years, over 700 years.
Oh my God.
So if we think back on World War II, for example, we still demine World War II mines here in Estonia, in Latvia, Lithuania. I'm sure even the Germans are demining some equipment because there's something in the forests. It's and in the sea as well. So it's a huge job, and that's why humanity is some type of a weird thing that we just destroy everything and then we have to rebuild it all again.
And mine is a very strange weapon because it's so easy to place it. You place it with seconds.
Yeah.
Even you can place it with artillery. It shatters mines all across the small butterfly ones. And finding them might take thousands of man hours because you cannot even risk one being there. You gotta go through. So it's so imbalanced how much effort you have to put in to use that weapon versus how much you have to demine it. It's no other weapon is like that, I think.
Yeah, I think people actually were shocked when they saw the same butterflies that you talked about, and that now you don't even have to be there to place the mine. I mean, if we take some cool movies that we saw of the World War II, and they place the mines real carefully and one by one, and takes time. This time you just press one button, it fires up, and then you have a vast area just covered with mines. And it's just crazy to think about if that's ever gonna happen here in our own country, which is actually why I'm supportive, very supportive of Ukraine, that they have the war already going. And if you see all the damage and everything, you just think about how it's going to affect if it were to come here. Yes, but if it were to come here, and I would never want to see an entire country just disappear.
I mean, I would just imagine how sadly how easy it would be to demine. Even, yeah, we push them back. We have the NATO forces. We have a lot of firepower. We bought the new anti-ship missiles, everything. We bought HIMARS. We will destroy everything that comes over the border, but they can still shoot over the border. They can shoot butterfly mines all across Tallinn, all across almost every city in Estonia. They can even mine with missiles in the future, probably.
Yeah.
They can shoot it and it drops. It's not hard to do if they want to. So, okay, let's say they cannot come over the border. They can still destroy our fields for 100 years.
Exactly. It's I'm sure we would win, because I see how Ukrainians fight. I see their motivation. I see how they're standing for something. Russians aren't standing for anything. They're just looting and polluting, and they're happy to just kill people. But we stand for something. We have something to stand for. It's our own freedom. It's our country. We've seen Russian occupation for 50 years and years before that, and 100 years of other occupations. So we as a country know what it's like to be occupied, and we would never want that again. So I'm pretty sure we're gonna win. But as you said, even if we win, what's the area that's gonna be destroyed? I mean, if we take World War II, then Russia bombed the entire city of Narva, so there was nothing left of it. Even though in Estonia there were no German soldiers by that time. Tallinn also, Russians came in, bombed the entire Tallinn. No German soldiers anywhere, just civilians. And that's history repeating itself over and over and over again.
And I would even like to repeat, like when you say no German soldiers, and there's a city and Soviets know it, and to bomb, then you go into why they did it and why destroy. Start to look for the answers. There's tens of thousands of people living in that city, and there's no military in there. Let's just raze it to the ground.
Yep.
Like I think that's one of the things that Western countries find it most difficult to understand, and they sometimes project their intelligence to Russians. Oh, they wouldn't do that because there's no army. They wouldn't do that. Russians, they are just destroying. That's their main objective of this war: to destroy and overtake and resources to Moscow. Boom. And Western countries are sleeping, I think. I say it in my videos also, like not in 10 years, but tomorrow, military spending to 3% tomorrow. Take away from everything, science, education. We need to defend ourselves right now.
Because if we don't defend ourselves right now through Ukraine, we're going to spend a lot more money. We're going to spend a lot of our own people to try and stop a country. And if we talk about Russia, even if Russia did attack, there are some other countries that also see the Western world as a threat, from North Korea, from also China, even though China's economy is based on our economy as well, but they might just want to do the same things as the Russians do. And it's not as simple as that Russians are just bad people, but there are other bad countries as well. Not bad countries, but bad people ruling a country.
Yeah, and you said China's economy is based on the Western economy. Well, so was Russia's. Russia's entire economy was incredibly connected before the war, and that didn't stop Putin from totally disconnecting from SWIFT, from gas and oil exports. I mean, it hurts Russia, it hurts European Union, and European Union leaders were projecting their way of thinking. Oh, they wouldn't do that because it's so painful economically. Russians did it. Putin did it. So China also, they don't care. If Russia succeeds in Ukraine, then there's Taiwan, then there's Iran going crazy with, like, that sends the message to these Axis countries that we're allowed to do this.
It's because the Russians, the rich people who actually pull the decisions to wage war, they're untouchable by the sanctions. They might get touched a bit, but I'm pretty sure they've been smart enough to hide their assets elsewhere, in other markets or in gold or whatever. I'm pretty sure they've been smart enough to know that they're living good, and that's why they're not scared. Because in Russia there are two Russias. There's the Moscow and St. Petersburg Russia, and then there's the other Russia.
Mm-hmm.
So the people who are gonna get affected are the other Russians. And the idea of the sanctions, I think, should not be to attack the oligarchs and people like that, because I'm pretty sure they don't just care. but we should and put pressure on the regular average people, who are millions of them, who, if we convince them that here you go, your life is so uncomfortable, go and overthrow your government, then in that case something might change in Russia. Because if we look back in history again, during the 1917th year, Russians raised up against the ruling government. They overthrew it, and they got their freedom-ish. But then other bad people came to power again, and then everything went south. But you gotta, if anything were to change, then it's the hundreds of millions of people living in Russia who can change that.
The thing is, Lenin came to power not as another bad person. I think Lenin was the product of the revolution. He was the revolution, and the revolution was reacting to the Tsar power, which already had a secret police. They had discrimination of all sorts. It was an authoritarian system fully under Tsarist control, and Lenin then just was the new Tsar. So I would oppose here that I think it's the Russian people's mindset, imperialistic mindset. So even if Putin was killed, and let's say 10 of his closest elites were to be killed, still the system would produce another Putin or another Hitler or another Lenin, whatever, because the entire house of cards is built like that. The entire system is, you cannot be like it's very hard for me to imagine a revolution in Russia which produces, in Russian revolution it's violent, right? Mm-hmm. Through these extremely bloody violent means produces a peaceful democratic government. It's so hard for me to understand. Yeah, there would be very bloody revolution, bring down the Putin, we don't want this war anymore. And then you get another Lenin and another concentration camp.
That's why the mindset has to change completely. And that's how we have internet that can change the mindsets of especially younger people. Younger people who are connected and who can see other things as well, because the elderly Russians, they're still pro-Putin because they don't see the other side of it. They just sit there and get their brainwashed daily. They have gotten their brainwashed for centuries. But as you said, that if Putin was to overthrow, then there would be another person. But if we take, for example, after Stalin died, so Khrushchev came to power and started the melting of the Russian Soviet times. So everything went a bit easier. And then with the next leader, another easy part, and eventually you had Estonian people who could raise their flag, sing their own songs, and say whatever they wanted, because the leadership had gotten so weak, because everyone wants to feel the connectivity with the people and wants to be, the ruling power has to be loved. Mm-hmm. So there might be that way that if there is a new leader, then the new leader will be more softer, and maybe the next leader will be softer, but we have to be sure that the people, the mindset would change, that you don't need more power or more territory in order to live your life.
Yes, what you're describing is like 45 years of Estonian occupation by the Soviet Union is basically 4 decades, many different leaders, and Afghanistan war, Chernobyl disaster, all of these disasters, Reagan Star Wars program, and that like degraded the Soviet Union and the new leaders, and Gorbachev was like the reformator of the Soviet Union, and it evolved. So I feel a little bit that right now, after 2 years of war, asking or like hoping that something would change in Russia, I think more energy should be just put into, okay, they can do what they want, but nothing comes out over this border, right? So this is our red line, and if they do, we will destroy them. That's how it is. Because
if you take different kind of pacts that we've done in the past, we have the Tartu Peace Treaty, which has said that Russia will never, ever ever attack Estonia or interfere with our politics, and we are a sovereign state, and they would give us reparation money and everything. We saw that it was just scratched off the books immediately when Russia saw that they're going to occupy Estonia again, and then we see the way that we talked about our borders as well, that they didn't want to give back our borders based on that treaty. So we've actually had to agree with less just because Russians don't honor anything. So even though if we pull the red line anywhere, they're going to step over it anyways at some point.
Because they only respect power, and that's the only language they understand. So you don't pull it with paper, you pull it with strength, meaning they actually cross it. Yes, then Ukraine gets more powerful weapons, which of course if Estonia was in the head of choosing what weapons to choose, there would be no red lines. Everything goes to Ukraine. But the thing is, if they, for example, they fly over Estonia with their jets, shoot it down. You know, they understand that language. Okay, we lost the plane, we're not going to fly anymore. They don't understand, like, oh, we condemn this violation of Estonian airspace.
Yeah, and then we pull out the ambassador of Russia, and then we're going to say you're very bad and you shouldn't
Naughty
do
boy.
that. You know, yeah, exactly, a naughty boy. And they're not going to change because of that. I was just talking to someone, and he said that Turkey is a great example of how the Russian airplanes flew through their border, and Turkey just shot them down, and Russia hasn't interfered with their air forces anymore. It's just, you gotta show that you mean business.
Yes.
And the Polish as well. Polish people, the rocket was shot on the Polish ground during the war now. The Polish did nothing. They just looked at it and they make it go away, so they wouldn't have to. That's the difference between us and Russians, is that we and the Ukrainians, we value human life. We don't want to escalate things. We want to keep them really, really quiet. That's the mistake Western world did actually in the Second World War as well, as Hitler took over part of Czechoslovakia.
The appeasement, Chamberlain.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the Munich, we call it Munich lie or something like that. I don't know how it's in English, but yeah, when they agreed that Hitler should take a small portion, that's what Putin did. Everyone just agreed that he's going to take Crimea. He took Crimea. What did Hitler do? He took the entire state of Czechoslovakia. He took Poland. He attacked everyone near to him, and everyone thought he's not going to do it. Look at Putin. Everyone thought he's not going to do it. He just attacked Ukraine as well, all forces. So Crimea was just another part of Czechoslovakia.
Yeah, you made a good comparison. If you look at 1930 to 1939, all that led up to the First World War, I mean, Hitler wasn't building up the army and navy in 2 years. He was building that up with a decade. He came to power through democratic means in 1933, I think, was it? People elected him, and he started building up the army against the limitations put after the First World War. And French and Britain saw that. They saw what was happening, and they just chose to ignore it, as the Western world ignored the First and Second Chechen War, the annexation of Georgia, 2007, I think, then Crimea. All of these steps are very similar to, you know, Czechoslovakia, Sudetenland, remilitarization, demanding of Danzig, from like, all of these steps in 10 years are so similar from 2014 to 2024 right now. And me and you, we're lay people, we see that politicians should be able to see that. It's so similar. Then, based on that, we would know what's coming in 10 years.
Yeah.
A huge damn war in Europe.
Exactly. And that's the most horrible thing, that we Eastern Europeans, we see it. We have felt it. We know every part of it. We know what Russia is. We still, if we walk on the streets, you can see that there are some Russian ladies who wear the Russian supportive signs on themselves because they haven't been they've been brainwashed for their whole life, and they're still living in the free country of Estonia, but they still do it. There are some people that do that, and we still see it, and we don't ever want anything like that. But what the problem is that, again, the French, the Germans, the entire Western world, I think they haven't endured enough pain to understand what the actual threat from Russia is. They think that Russia is a great place to make business. I mean, Germans just bought gas and made new Nord Plus projects and Nord Stream projects. So they made business with them, even though they knew it's going to weaken Ukraine. The French still want to make business. If we take, for example, the Dutch Prime Minister at the moment, who didn't become the Prime Minister, but he had the chance to, the ruling power. If I can only remember his name, he's the guy with the funny haircut. When the Russians shut down the Dutch plane that carried over 200 Dutch people, and there were other nationalities there as well. Everyone knew it was Russia. Eventually, the facts came out that it was Russia as well. No one was accounted for it. They said it's the separatists from Donetsk or some region in Ukraine. That they shot it down, but no, it was Russia. And what today's prime minister did was that he went to Russia, shook hands with the head of the State Duma year after that plane had got down. So if we have leaders like that in Europe as well, who just discredit their own people and discredit everything Russia's doing, they just go there, shake their hands, and they're happy with that, then I don't think there's hope with people like that.
Yeah, and I don't like. It sounds really bad. We live in times where these expressions like, if you don't defend yourself, then you will lose everything. You almost deserve to lose everything, because right now I see how many people are suffering because European leaders choose not to defend the economic area, and they enjoy the freedoms of it, economical freedoms, the financial, like everything that comes with the European Union. It's a huge plus. It's just so nice to live in the EU, but EU is not isolated. It's Ukraine next to it, Russia next to it, in the southern border. All of these issues are European Union issues. Cannot ignore them. Ukraine is not in the European Union. We don't have to. This is the border wall of European Union. If they want to do any kind of policies in the EU, the number one issue right now is defending its borders. Number one. And yeah, as you said, the spinelessness of going to Russia and shaking hands. 200 citizens dead. Malaysian Airlines, right? It's Igor Kirkin now in prison, who gave the order to shoot it down. By the way, is now sent to Donetsk to fight again from prison. But yes, the spinelessness, it makes me personally angry. That and also I see a little bit, okay, but Russia is allowed to act like that. Yeah. I cannot only blame fingers on Russia. I just kind of want to blame fingers on these European leaders also. You have allowed this to happen.
Yeah, exactly. And we have Macron, who's the French prime minister as well. But I think there are some interior politics that's to be gambled with, because there are a lot of people who are pro-Russia because they don't see it. But there are a lot of people who are against it. So if you're a politician from the Western world and you want to remain in power, then they just, in order to remain in power, they try to play it nice with both sides. They do politics. Mm-hmm. And if we take the... what's the woman's name who's running in France at the moment? The Marie Le Pen.
Le Pen, yeah.
Yeah, Le Pen, very pro-Russian. Very pro-Russian.
Gets money from Putin.
Yeah, and she's still elected because the people still want her to win, and she's the right-winged party. And what we have with the right wing is that every right-wing party comes to power or comes rising when the society is not happy. So we saw that during the 30s. Everywhere around Europe and everywhere around the world, the right-wing parties came to a much higher position. The fascists in that time were actually a threat because they thought that, oh no, Hitler's going to gain power through that. And today the right-wing party's rise has been fueled by Russia with the migration issue that we have. It's made by and caused by Russia, who waged war in the Middle East. Through that, there's this inconvenient and horrible times. Russia is supporting the war there so that the immigrants would rise up into Europe, and they know exactly that if the immigrants came, people are going to be mad, and then we're going to be diffused from each other, we're going to attack each other, we're going to say bad things to each other, we're not going to be friends, and then if we have this instability in Europe, we will never be able to help Ukraine. And he underestimated our strength and our motivation against them, because if we say in Estonia, for example, if you're a one-party elector and the other one is from the other party, and we fight with each other and we scream at each other, it's if Russia were to attack, then Russia seriously underestimates us. We forget everything about politics, and there's one thing we hate more than the other party electorate is Russia. There's this one thing we hate more.
Oh yeah, I do agree on that. It's a funny saying about Estonians also. Like they always fight with each other, but when Russia attacks, then we pause, we defend, and then later we fight again with each other.
Exactly, yeah. And if we've been to Ukraine as well, and the Ukrainians say that there was this girl I talked to outside our hotel where we were staying for the night in Kiev, and this girl said that she started learning Finnish because in Duolingo there wasn't Estonian language, but she wanted to learn Estonian language just because she knows that the Estonians are the only people in the entire world who hate Russia as much as Ukrainians do. So that was like a compliment for us.
Oh yes,
it's a compliment.
But I mean, here I gotta say to the Finns, because they have an actual like swear word which means the Russian. I think like, actually in the vocabulary. So. They can now come out of the closet with their hatred on Russia because they now joined NATO and it's not a secret anymore.
Yeah.
All of the grandfathers like, I told you so. How bad they are. The new generation didn't believe them, but now they see.
Yeah. But I hope that our aid some. Like we've been giving aid in Bastard since Estonian Rescue Association. We've been giving aid since the first days of the war. And at first, what we try to do is we don't support the war exactly. We don't support like the warriors on the borders because that's funded by countries and that's funded by people like you as well who deliver cars there. But we give people opportunity to stand for regular people. Because that's the really important part as well. Everything is important in the Ukrainian war because you have this huge machinery that everything has to work perfectly, and everything has to be oiled up in order to win this war. And what we're doing is giving people the opportunity to, if they're really pacifist or just believe that they want to help regular people. You can support the rescuers, as in Estonia, as in Germany, everywhere US. You have the rescue people who do their job, even if the bombs fall, even if the houses collapse. And here's a story as well, what we heard from the rescuers, which is really horrible, is that what describes how Russia is a horrible state and the people are just makes so many questions, is that if there is a bombing on a house, then what the Russians do is they bomb the houses. They know that rescue people, police, the ambulance goes in first to save the people from under the rubbles. So what they do is they wait a bit and then they bomb the exact same position again, which is an active and close, very, very close and personal site of a war crime. They are destroying civilian people just because they want to. It doesn't give them anything. If you kill a civilian person, what does it give you? So a rescue worker who just goes in to save other people is killed because Russians just want to kill.
I think people in the European Union also who kind of distance themselves from this war is like try to imagine look at your neighbor's next door house. Imagine a bomb falling into that, and you see a bunch of these red fire trucks, police. You can see these men, they're heroes. They go in, they risk their lives to bring, and then another bomb. Everybody's dead.
Yeah.
This has happened in Dnipro and in Mykolaiv, in Kiev, even in these cities. And I've read about this news, yes, and I don't really even know how to react to it. I'll save my reactions to the front line, honestly, because I don't know what to do with these emotions. Because if I get mad, I waste myself. I get tired. Like, this is a long marathon, right? I cannot like always be, you know. So it's confusing to me. Also, I read this news. Okay, I try to conserve myself and my emotions and pour it into my work, but
It's difficult.
it's difficult. Yeah.
Because physically it's easy to go there, and I don't believe, I don't know if you're ever scared of going to the front lines. I mean, people have been asking. I go only to Kiev. I'm not going to the war zones.
I'm also
But
not going to front.
oh, you're not going, okay. But people ask if you're scared of going there. I don't ever feel scared, but what I do feel is when I see in Kiev, for example, there's a wall filled with the fallen soldiers since the 2014. And since there are people on the walls, and the dates of the birth are 2002, 2003, 1998, my own birth year. And if you see that, that's like you get so caught up with it, and it emotionally, that's what's hard, seeing all the real people actually die. I mean, you might say,
Yeah.
oh, 25,000 dead. It eventually becomes like, no, you don't feel anything. But if you see one dead and you see who it is, and you know that that one person has a story, there's a wife, there's a husband. In Odessa, there was a bombing, and rescue workers went to help people out, and there was a son and a father, both rescuers. So the son went 2 blocks away, or 2 houses away from the father, to extinguish a house during bombing. And at one moment, he heard blasts from basically next door, and he knew immediately that his father was in that house. So the Russians bombed again. They did the same tactics that they bombed one time. Rescue workers go in, they bombed again, and the father died. Meanwhile, the boy was in the middle of the field crying. There's a video of it as well, as in that moment when they realized that it's the father who died. And what the Ukrainian rescuers are doing as well, which is really important part, which the Western world hasn't yet thought about, is psychological help. Psychological help for the evacuated people, for the rescuers, for the people being bombed, for everyone who needs psychological aid. They're always there. So if there's some kind of a place where the rescuers have been put with their evacuation point, for example, then there are psychologists who go to people and they help them, they talk to them, they try to make people calm, because psychologically you think, oh, my house is gone, and you're feeling depressed, but there's actually so many more emotions, and you might do something really bad. And so the psychological part is also very important for them.
Yeah, I think it was 2 convoys ago when we were in Kiev, and one of my cars was going to a unit. I didn't know what does this unit do, so I asked other guys also, and they were like, "This is a frontline psychology unit," and I've never seen one before. It was a woman, actually, a woman commander who we gave the car to, and she was a psychologist in full military uniform, and her task was to take care of soldiers' mental health, because on the front lines you're only as good as your mindset, right? Demoralized soldier is so easy, first crack and he runs. So it's not about even about the food or sleep, how much they get sleep. It's also how they feel, and they feel horrible, but you can make that better. You need these kind of course Russia doesn't care at all. They don't have these kind of units, but this shows that Ukraine is a modern country with modern military, modern rescue operators also, if they have psychologists on the front lines and psychologists with the firefighters, for example, because this is one of the most important parts also, how to deal with the emotional impact of it. The scar on my hand, it will heal, but maybe emotional, it doesn't heal, and I cannot even work 20 years after that because of the trauma, for example. So it's so important to have that.
And we shouldn't have only Ukraine as an example of it, but we have We have movies about it. We have talked about it. How actually Iraq war and the Iran war and how people have actually sorry, not Iran, Afghanistan. How the soldiers who came back from there have committed suicide, have made some violent acts, so and just others have lost their mental ability to just be because they're suffering somehow, and we just from Ukraine we have so much to learn, and we have to be better because Ukraine, as a good part, has given us a sight to see what's actually important, how the war in the 21st century is being made. And now we see it, and we have to learn everything about it. And they are happy to share their experiences as well. We have we went to Ukraine in November as well. We delivered aid again for the demining unit, and we got the opportunity to learn with our volunteer rescuers the rubble rescue, how they're doing it. And the most important part was that you cannot go rescue during an air raid alarm, because the Russians might bomb the same place again. So it's the toughest thing to do as a rescuer is just sit by and watch as you know that there are people under those rubbles that need help, but you cannot go and jeopardize your own life because the Russians might strike again. So you have to watch the people down there and wait for the air raid alarm. But if you're in Donetsk region or somewhere near the border, you don't even have time. The air raid alarm doesn't even activate before the rocket has already flown, because it's so close and the rockets fly really fast. So sometimes you don't even know if you can go or not. And that's why they're kind of really... It's a difficult thing, but we can learn from them, and that's the coolest thing that we have with them, is that they are so friendly and they're so open, and they really want to teach us so that this would never happen again.
Yeah, in Estonia, for example, like we see these air raids in Ukraine, and this is how Russia fights. This is how they fight in Ukraine, and how they would fight in Estonia. We would need a lot of shelters. We would need for people to hide at the time of the air raid. We don't have these places in Estonia right now at all. We have one or two in Tali, maybe a few below 10. And in Finland, they do them. In Finland, they still have these mandatory air raid shelters to be built in big buildings, but we don't have them. We have nowhere to hide when Russia attacks. Our firefighters, I think, or rescuers, they wouldn't have the doctrine of rubble rescue, like you said. They would storm on it, and Russia would bomb again, probably.
That's actually an issue as well. If the war started, then our volunteer rescuers at the moment are up for mobilization. So it might mean that the only rescue people who are working would be the professional firefighters of Estonia who are actually working. But if we look at the size of the war at the moment in Ukraine, we see that that's not going to be, that might not be enough. There would be some, we don't have even reserves, I think, if we need to change people. Because you can't work on a fireplace for so long. You have to have reserves. You have to switch teams. And if we have volunteer rescuers who are actually capable of doing it, eventually in Estonia, we would need for them to make an exception on the service, on the mobilization. Because if you have people like that who can actually extinguish fire, who can rescue from rubbles, who can do all of the rescue things that they're trained for, and they've put into the wrong area, like for example just take a gun and go on the front lines to fight. There are so little people who actually can do so much more good.
Yeah, and that's lessons that Ukraine is teaching every European country, and we in Eastern Europe, we're accepting these lessons, of course, but in West, I don't know if they even have changed their military doctrine. I mean, Martin Herem, the former chief of staff of the Estonian Ministry of Defense, he admitted his mistake of thinking that if Russians attack, then about 1 or 2 months we need to kill 1,000 a day before the society in Russia reacts to the war, and that needs to be stopped. Now he admitted that there is no level, the society does not react. They don't care if 10,000 a day get killed or 1,000. So the new approach for Estonia, militarily at least, is to kill everyone who comes over the border, everything and everyone. That's what they're now buying weapons for. It's not to deter, it's to just physically eliminate every last thing that comes over the border. Also, this is very same thing then go to firefighters, like how, okay, our previous approach or rescue rubble doctrine, that doesn't work because Russia bombards 2 times, 3 times maybe. There's need to be completely different training then and completely different rotation system and how many firefighters we need at the time of mobilization. You know, like you said, we don't even have reserves. All of that needs to be changed and learned from the Ukrainians. And I think we're doing it slowly, right?
We're doing slowly, yeah. And one of the things that makes me uncomfortable living here is that when the people who work for our government, they say that we have plans on war, we have plans on emergency situations. But the thing is, if I ask from you, for example, okay, you might know you're a reserve, you have finished your conscription service, you will know, you will get an SMS on your phone and you will go to a designated place. But how will you go there? With what? Are you walking somewhere or what are you doing? If you take, for example, a regular civilian person, you take I've asked my friends this question for many times, if they ever say that we have plans for something. Where will you go? What will you do if there was an emergency situation? What would you do? And no one knows what to do. But somewhere in the drawers we have plans for it. But but the regular people don't know what the plans are, and that's that's the most scary part. That actually, I'm not sure that the plans that are in the drawers of the governments or local governments places, I don't think they actually do anything unless we try them out. What we should do, what I've talked to with our other rescuers and volunteer rescuers of Estonia, what we should do is take the paper and put it into use in a way that we don't tell people that it's happening. We just at one point press send SMS alert. This is õppus. Training exercise. Training exercise. Don't be alarmed. But what we do is we put it in the field. We say this house is on fire. This house is on fire. There are tens of people stuck over there. We do that, and then we see how it works. Then we learn from our mistakes. As the Estonian military does, they have this plan on how to do the exercises, the training exercises. They have the big plan, but they don't have the small plans because the small plans are made by the people who are actually trying to achieve the bigger goal. So we have reserve people coming into the exercises, and they have to think for themselves how to solve some situation. But if we say that we have it all in the plans, I'm really scared about that.
We would need. You're suggesting that we would need to rehearse the situation more.
Yeah, we should rehearse it as an unexpected thing, not an expected thing. Like there was this crevax, which was all thought of. Like you saw that everything was thought up, so they just it was a huge exercise for our rescuers. But if you think everything ahead, then it won't be an exercise. It would just follow the script. Mm-hmm. But what we should do is just boom, blank. We have houses on fire. We have bombed this house. There are people under the rubble over there. Now go and do something. And then we see and we can see how they operate, how they think. What should we actually do better? Because if there are plans, then what are the plans for? If we don't, if the plans actually don't work on the field, let's take the plans from the drawers and put them on the field and see what happens.
Yeah, I forgot the United States general who said that, but the plans doesn't survive the first shots in the battlefield. So it's like when it actually happens, all your plans in the drawer they're gone. And now you improvise. And if you haven't rehearsed, then you become a panic sheep and you don't know what to do. And the entire country becomes like that. The roads are clogged up. Everybody tries to run. Yeah, I mean, Israel is doing that really great. They have mandatory military conscription for men and women. Everybody gets the training. The entire population is a mean of defense for the country. And we in Estonia were in a similar situation, although not like Israel surrounded, but Russia is so big and powerful that it's kind of the same thing. They have a navy and they can come from the north, and our entire population. I am also for female conscription because men are not in any way weaker than, women are not in any way less capable. Of course, they cannot perhaps carry a 50-kilogram bag, but they can be medics, they can be logistical work, they can do so much that needs to be done to save lives.
That's why we have the naiskodukaitse, which is the female home protective in the territorial defense.
But it's still like 5-7%, something like that. We have so many women who are so capable, and they love that country of Estonia and their capabilities here at the European Union. Then we haven't tapped into that because we're a progressive country, or we don't want to do that. But Israel is doing that, and they are a strong country. Their neighbors, like, they're forced to respect their strength. Russia understands only strength. So this is the same way. If they say, okay, this population is just mobilized to save, to rescue, to defend, I wouldn't want to attack that country. And right now I don't feel that in Estonia, unfortunately.
Yeah, the thing that I'm really surprised of is actually how, if someone starts a war, I've never thought about all of the different aspects we need to take care of. Because for a regular person, just like me, I just saw that, people are going to go with guns on the border, and then other people are going to come from there, and there are going to be tanks, and there are going to be explosions, and then people are going to die, and some people will live, and something will win, and something will lose.
War for dummies.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. And then we will have a war, but with that war actually comes so much more things, what we've learned from Ukraine as well, because at first, for example, the Estonian Rescue Association brought fire trucks, fire protection clothes, we brought hoses, we brought some medical equipment that what they needed. Most of it was for fire protection. And then at the start of last year, in January 2023, we got the information, the need of paper, because we only deliver to the rescue services of Ukraine, we only deliver aid that they request. We never give them like, here are 1,000 T-shirts, maybe you will need them. They don't need T-shirts. There's a great example how the Swiss just sent like 1,000 pieces of jackets, leather jackets for the rescue service, and they're thankful, but at the same time they're confused what to do with them. Ukraine is not
the jackets are neutral.
The Ukraine is not a trash pile. You don't send everything there.
People are sending so much crap, so much.
Exactly.
Like socks and gloves there's no use for them at all.
They're fighting a war. They're not some kind of adoption house or something. They're not.
Send your old stuff.
They're not the place for that. They need actual stuff, and that's what the Estonian Rescue Association has done as well. We send stuff they need, and they give a list even of the products that might be the best for them, so they know what they want. And they know what they need. So back in January last year, we started to get requests for demining equipment, metal detectors, also medical equipment. There are bomb jackets and the demining robots, which are really important because it helps them to stay alive. They don't have to risk their own lives, and they can use it mobilely, as we said, with the joystick. And they have... What I've seen is that it's not only the war that needs fighting, but it's also the civilian part of it that needs protection as well. And that's something I haven't really thought about, and what the Estonian Rescue Board should think about it as well, because we need the civil protection. We need it to be strong in order for the soldiers to have a backside to fight for, and something
foundation for the military. I mean, it's just not isolated military. It's founded or based on every other aspect of the country, right?
And Ukraine is a great example of how when I learned at one point of my life I learned history as well, and I remember that one of the most important things about waging a war is that the economy in the back of the war is strong. So that's what the Ukrainians are doing as well. If you go to Kiev, you might even not notice that there's a war. Cars are driving, cafes are open, young people, girls, boys are just sitting at a cafe, drinking beer, enjoying life. At the same time, I know that
That's
they
gonna
have
be
this.
me in 2 days.
And I know that it seems like it's ridiculous. You're having a war. You're fighting a war. How is it possible that you're so chill? But the thing is, you need to have that stability.
Money needs
because
to move.
money needs to
Yeah.
move always, and that's what they work. They work, but most of the Ukrainians, if not all, are working, and even the taxes have risen as well. But what they do is they donate most of their money for the army. That's what they do every month, every day. They get paid. They donate it away because they know that they need the money. And even if they're so chill and they're just having a beer in the backside, they know they can't stop being chill, because if they stop being chill, it might mentally not be healthy. If the war has been 2 years, think about being depressed for 2 years. It's just horrible, and that's what they need to do. They need to continue living, so that the people who are fighting for something.
It's a very good explanation, actually. Get a lot of comments of how can you allow yourself humor, or this is inappropriate to make jokes and stuff like that. Have you spoken to Ukrainian soldiers? They just lost somebody yesterday, and all they do is crack jokes because they need to survive. If they don't, if they get depressed and start to get it's so in fashion to say in the West, feel it. But if they start to feel it in the moment, they will die. That's it. You will start feeling so sad in that trench, and you will be like that and cry, and there's a kamikaze drone. You need to survive. You need to pick yourself up. And there's a place to feel it later when your country is free. You have a decade to feel your feelings. But right now it's time to do everything to survive. I think that's one of the mechanisms, to go out, have that beer, talk with your friends, and try to survive any way you can.
And they're always really happy to see us as well, because what we do is we always deliver the aid there ourselves. I think maybe 1 or 2 times when the shipment has gone with another car that was too big for us to carry there, but most of the equipment we've all delivered there ourselves. So we've seen the people there, we've talked with them, and what they do is they want to host small dinner as well. Every time you're there, they want to thank you for the help you're doing, and they're just really happy to see us. And what they've always said is that even though you can see that Estonia can't give that much as can United States, we can't give $61 billion to Ukraine. It's not even our 8 years yearly yearly money that we can serve as a country. But we can't do that. But what we can do is, in our own capabilities, to donate as much as we can. And what we Estonians are doing is spreading the word around Europe to wake up and donate. And we have been the most loudest ones, and we have the most friendliest. And what they say is they value Estonia as one of the biggest helpers and supporters of Ukraine, by not just donating large amounts of money, but by just being there for them morally, and supporting them in the European Council, in the NATO. We're talking, we're going around, our deeds have been heard, and that's the most important thing that Estonia can do as a small state. We have to make the world see what Russia is capable of.
Yeah, and as a citizen, I do feel proud about my country for that. I mean, I see how we stand out on that, and I'm not ashamed to say I'm really proud to be Estonian at this time right now, what we're doing for Ukraine. And let us have that moment.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, Hendrik, for coming to the podcast and opening up your viewpoint to the viewers. Thank you. And all of your links, your Instagram, Best Elite, Estonian Association of Estonian Rescue Association is in the description below. People can donate there also, right?
Yeah, people can donate to us through, if you're international, then you can donate through PayPal, and if you're local, you can donate through bank accounts as well with the tag Ukraine. So everything goes where it needs to go, and we'll make sure of it.
Thank you for coming. And also to the viewer, thank you for watching. And you will get a podcast in next Monday. Also, every Monday, come hell or high water, you will get a podcast episode. So subscribe to this channel. Spotify link is in the description below if you want to listen there. Arthur's Army link, everything is there. Go and check out the links and be back next week. Bye-bye, my friends. Slava Ukraini.